to tell you the truth, we weren't even like that good of friends in the army.
No, I hated you.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think you're the only one, if I'm honest.
If you listen to this podcast, you will make your first million within 3 years. I'm going to repeat that. You will make $1 million within 3 years of the first episode you listen to. We don't want pikers. We're not here to save the manatees. We're here to make podcasts. You really want this. You listen and review.
Put that coffee down.
Hey, Guy.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Me too.
So, this is our first attempt at doing this. Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
And I guess we should probably start, because I think we're planning on putting this on both of our YouTube channels, right? Yeah. So for you, people on your channel who are watching it, my name's Pat Stewart. Hi.
It's my best mate, Pat.
Yeah. Thanks, Guy.
Yeah.
And who are you?
I'm Matt. So me and Pat have been friends for a long time. I do sales. Pat does dog stuff.
Yeah. And so what we were planning on doing, I think you said at some point for a while, you've been listening to the podcast, you do your own podcast, and we're like, we should do a podcast together. And I was like, that is a lot more work than I'm willing to take on at the moment.
Yep.
And I was proud of myself for saying no to something.
Yeah, especially with the enormity of our success.
Yeah. So instead of doing a podcast and being on the hook to do that on the regular, we decided that we're going to just sit down and discuss our lives and where we're at.
Yeah.
Probably every quarter or so.
As often as needs be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been cool having you back in Sydney because you left to go to Perth.
We can talk about that period.
Yeah. How long were you gone for? Over a year and a half?
Like 18 months, yeah.
Yeah. And you're back and searching for a home.
Yeah, that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went to Perth. The main reason was because the business was new and it was doing all right, but like the Sydney lifestyle was just getting a little bit on top of us. And I was like, I need time to breathe. And obviously, like when it comes to business, if you want to grow it, you want to reinvest. I didn't have the excess funds to reinvest and live in Sydney. So I was like, well, I can go to Perth. I can buy a giant house for, I'll just do a song and a dance and then someone will give me a house. And then so I could set up an office at home, and that gave me the ability to be hyper aggressive over that 18 months. And then we literally 35x the business over that 18 months.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, I got money now. I'll come out to Sydney.
I'm sick of this place.
Yeah.
And you kind of dodged COVID altogether, right? Because what did Perth have, like 2 cases throughout the whole thing? And that was just recently?
I had 1.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the whole time there was like 1 community transmission the whole way through. So, I mean, really, like if I look back at it in retrospect, it was like it was the greatest decision ever.
Yeah.
Because we got a great house, which we still own, or renting out. It's making money.
Yeah.
And we like literally had no disruption.
Yeah.
There was a 4-week period where like the Westfield was closed. Like for those of you in America, the Westfield is like just a shopping mall.
Yeah.
Everything else was open the whole time.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Everyone still panic bought toilet paper.
Yeah, of course.
But, whatever.
So taking a step back, we were in the army together. Didn't actually really work together ever in the army.
No, and like we to tell you the truth, we weren't even like that good of friends in the army.
No, I hated you.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think you're the only one, if I'm honest.
So I remember I was in Afghanistan and I got home and you and Tyndall, Ryan, who I went to school with and joined the army with, had become friends while I was in Afghanistan. Like you got to the unit while I was there. And I lived with Ryan, and when I got home, you were at my house, and I was like,
just some guy.
I was like, who's this dude? Who's he at my house?
Threatening me.
This is amazingly good-looking dude in my home, right? But then when he left the army, we've been, in touch and been good friends since. And recently, we've both sort of started doing something silly. We're in completely different industries, stayed pretty like tied in together. I mean, you were my PT for a while I was still in the army.
I can't take blame for that though.
We both have similarly ruined bodies in many ways.
Yep.
From being in the army. Thanks, Army. Yep. But also a lot of cool stories. So you get that with the ruined body.
You do. And sometimes they even tell yours.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the great thing about the army.
Yeah, other people tell your stories.
Exactly.
Especially when you're in the room with them and you look at them with that like, are you going to do this? Is this going to happen?
Man, stealing chickens in North Korea.
Yeah, exactly. So, but recently, I think that the thing that we should talk about today so that people can actually watch is, instead of it just being us talking shit with each other, is recently, in spite of us being in completely separate industries, I train dogs and people, and you do sales and train people to do sales. We've both decided to push into YouTube and try and, for me, it's not really about, I do have a goal of monetizing YouTube. I want to get money from it, but it's not like I expect it to be a revenue stream, right? Like it's not going to do anything other than buy a microphone or something like that, right? It's not like I'm expecting to buy a house or get rich from it. And considering you're now super rich, why have you decided to try and do YouTube?
Well, it goes back, right? Because it's the same reason why I did the podcast, just because I idolize you, Pat. I just kind of want to be, at least a month behind you at all times. But no, so it's a very similar reason. So like, I think what me and you have managed to do in our industries independently, which is why we've been able to, I guess, connect on this stuff so well. One, we both love gear. Mm-hmm. This is a gear heavy enterprise.
Yes.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And secondly, like,
this is probably a $10,000 interview.
Yeah, I said I wouldn't come unless it was.
Just in equipment to do this.
Yeah. And yeah, so but we've managed to grab authority in the space relatively quickly. Mm-hmm. I think there's a couple reasons for that. One, I think on camera, natural kind of charisma, I think is one thing. Natural storytelling ability, which is a good one, which translates well to seminars like you were doing and sort of some of the online stuff that I was doing. And so podcasting really lent itself to that. And both of our podcasts have done well. Mm-hmm. Yours does extremely well. Mine's younger. Mine does well for how long it's been going on. And then from there, I do video podcasts as well. And then I started doing a lot of educational content on Facebook and then putting that onto like all the different social platforms, which was the play that I did that nobody else was doing and nobody else was willing to do. Mm-hmm. And that got me like the market share that I have today, which is pretty significant considering how long I've been in the space. Mm-hmm. And then for me, like YouTube was the next step for that. And the main reason I'm doing YouTube is one, because I like the creative endeavor and I think it's interesting and it gives me like an outlet to be able to kind of be a little bit more me, Yep. The second is that I can like liquidate my content. So I can use the content that I put out there, which in turn makes me money in all the other programs. Mm-hmm. But instead of like, I can make money from the advertising because like, people say like you can talk long enough to where everybody knows you're a fuckwit.
Yeah.
Or you can talk long enough to where everyone goes, oh, this dude knows what he's talking about. Yeah. And I've spoken so much over the last year that people have made their mind up and hopefully it's the latter. Mm-hmm. And so like the more that I do that, the more brand equity I get. And then by being able to monetize that content, I'm essentially getting paid to put people into my funnels.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the main driver behind it. Mm-hmm. And I think like, to be honest, it's funny. Like I don't make any money off YouTube. I'm sure I do through coaching and people kind of coming through the funnels and stuff like that, but it's hard to track that. But it's like the most important thing to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
like constantly checking the analytics and it's almost like that dopamine hit.
It is big time.
Yeah.
And I think you and I both, it's a challenge. Like it's a new thing you have to learn. Right? Like it's, because it's very different as a social media platform to anything else. It performs really differently. People interact with it differently. No matter how long we speak for now, this is probably already going to be the longest video that I have publicly available on YouTube because people's attention spans are short. And when we watch this, we'll see that after 30 seconds in, you get like a 70% drop. But it's cool that you get that analytics.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different beast and I'm having a fun time learning it.
Yeah, I suppose like I have a different, like I have a big team. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, my marketing team is large. Like, we have a marketing team today and I've got like a chick who does Clubhouse and Instagram. I've got a guy who handles YouTube and Facebook.
So
and then
let's just reset the stage a little bit because since we're talking Clubhouse, set the room. We're in the roof of my house. My business is me. I have 2 kennels outside, but I have 2 dogs, so I can only have another 2 in. I'm as small a small business as can be. I employ nobody. It's just me.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the size.
I've got 32 staff.
Right.
Yeah. So not everyone's full time. And that includes, you know, some VAs and stuff like that. But I would say like core, like full-time, highly paid like staff, there's like 12. And then we've got like, you know, another 15 contractors that are full-time contractors. And then we have like virtual assistant staff and stuff like that. So it's a big organization. It grows relatively quickly because like I just keep throwing people at things to make life easier. And so like, you know, my like we have a branding strategist and all that kind of stuff that we employ. I actually like required so much from my marketing company. They had to start a new division and make 3 hires.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
they love you as a client.
Yeah, they love me. I made my own package.
Of course.
I started off at like $2,000 a month and it was like the basics. And then I was like, hey, you're doing a good job. He's like, yeah, sweet. I was like, so I'm going to pay you 10 and this is what you're going to do. And he was like, okay, I need a month to sort that out. I was like, all right, cool. Set the bill up and we'll go.
Sweet.
So, but like, that's like, for me, that's like, I have to do that because that's what gets me to the front the fastest.
Right.
You know? And like, I'm it's a cool position to be in because like, the more I do that stuff, like I can say that publicly and I can go out and buy a Lamborghini. I mean, I can't, but if I could, I'd go out and buy a Lamborghini tomorrow. I could put it all over YouTube and makes me more money.
Yeah.
You know, so it's an interesting like arena. Not that I do like the life coaching or any of that stuff, but like being good at the sales, like what is the only outcome of being good at sales?
Yeah.
It's making more money.
Yeah. And so it's important to show lifestyle stuff.
Yeah.
Like you need to be showing that spending money, look how much money I have because of what I do makes that money.
Yeah. And I try and do it in the least douchebaggy way possible.
Yeah, of course.
Like I'm like, you know, like 60% full douche and I try and stick within that range.
Don't make jokes while I'm sipping my tea.
You know, I can't control this humor. One of the things that I try and do, and I'm sure like I've known you for a long time and like there's no difference between on camera Pat and off camera Pat.
Yeah.
And I think I'm the same. And it's just like, that is one of the reasons I think why we've been able to be, you know, I think like it's moderate success for both of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, you know, it's still early days really.
Yeah.
Because we're, you know, say less than sort of 5 years seriously into these careers, you know? And I think, you know, YouTube is a way that we can future proof or at least the video medium. I don't know, like in 5 years I might be going, remember YouTube? But like we can transition, you can move through those different platforms.
Yeah. For me, it was just at the end of last year, I was talking to a guy, it was my mechanic, and Remy was with me, and Remy's my dog, and we were talking about how we're making jokes, even though Remy's super social and whatever, this guy was kind of scared of him, and we're making jokes about how he could bite him, and then he saw, like, it was with my new car, and he saw the ball there, and he goes, oh, I just grab that ball and throw it, and he won't bite me. And I was like, oh, that's not how it works. I was like, when he's been told to bite someone, he's biting them no matter what. And he goes, what? Like, even if I block him or whatever. So yeah, that's part of the things I've trained him for. And I wanted to show him this video that I have of, you know, in like dog bite work, there's the big sleeve, right? Like what we call a barrel sleeve, the real obvious, like this is the thing. And people have it in their mind that that's what they're going to do with a dog that's going to bite. Like I'll present something and the dog will bite that, right? Especially if people have seen that, they're like, that's what I'll do. And with a lot of dogs, that'll happen, right? Like with the overwhelming majority of dogs that are trained to bite, that's what will happen. Yep. But I was like, that's not going to happen with my dog. He'll go under that. If you offer him something like that, he's been trained to go under it because he knows that's a trap, right? And he was like, what do you mean? And so I was like, oh, I've got a video of it. And I had a video on his Instagram. So my dog has an Instagram. He's Remco the dog on Instagram. And my Instagram's Operant Canine, right? And I knew it was on one of them. Couldn't remember exactly where I'd posted it. I had a feeling it was on both. Yeah. And so I was like scrolling. And like 10 minutes later with this guy over my shoulder, like waiting to see it, I was like, oh, well, you just have to take my word for it. Right? Like, I just couldn't find it. And then so it got me thinking, I was like, man, I can't even find my own content. Like the stuff that I have here within Instagram and Facebook, like, and I'm not a big user of those things. I'm not big on branding, marketing and stuff. And as you say, like that's a big part of business and it's a part that I'm pretty bad at. And I don't like to present myself as anything other than I am, right? So I've never put a lot of work into it. So anyway, what I realized is it's totally unsearchable and all my content was invisible to people, right? And so I was like, no, I need a better search mechanism for this. And so YouTube was the answer. And so it was that like I could name that video and I could then find it. And it just occurred to me that if I can't find my own content within the platform where I know where I put it, the chances of somebody else finding it are zero. And I feel like everything that I put out in the dog training space is probably what in content terms people call like evergreen content. It's as relevant yesterday as it will be tomorrow. There's no huge advances in dog training happening, right?
Well, it's the same as what I do because it's just human behavior. Yours is dog behavior.
Yeah.
Yours is manipulating dog behavior to get an outcome. Mine's manipulating human behavior to get an outcome.
Exactly. And so I don't do current events. So, I want my stuff to be searchable and find it out. And so YouTube was the answer to that. And then the more I looked into it, I just started thinking like, Facebook, I did a sale on my online course, and even doing that online course was a big challenge for me, like even just deciding to do it, right? And I'd put all this content into Facebook and, pretty good content, because what I do is when I do Skype sessions with people or Zoom sessions, I record them and I would just record my end. So I'm not recording the other person. There's no like issues there about how I can use that content. I'm only recording myself from the webcam initially. But if I say anything cool or relevant or I thought would be good, I'd put it into social media. So it's like, hey, here's a taste of the type of lessons you can get, right?
Yeah.
So there's heaps of pretty good, like high quality content that Facebook
stuff's expensive.
Yeah, and Facebook was showing it to people. It was all going well, and I'd get really good engagement. And then the second I was like, hey guys, I've got an online course, they're like, no, we're not showing that to anyone. Right. Like, and a friend of mine, John in the States, he's done a couple of lessons, really nice guy, good supporter of what I do, wants to see me do well. He shares it for me. Right. And then he contacts me a couple of days later. He goes, dude, something's going on. I was like, what do you mean? He goes like, my mum only has 3 friends on Facebook. It's like him and his sister. And she hasn't liked my post. And she likes all my posts, right? So he checked from her account and his post wasn't there of sharing my stuff. So I was like, fuck you, Facebook. Like I provided a lot of value to your platform and a lot of, like, I kept people on your platform and we both got a good win out of that. They saw that I know what I'm talking about and maybe booked sessions from me or went to seminars or stuff like that. But then the second I was
Did you
like.
have a link in it?
Yeah, of course I did. Yeah.
You can't have a link in it.
Yeah. Right. And I just got angry with it. And I was like, you guys are all take, very little give. And then when I looked into YouTube and it's like, you get a cut of the ads. I was like, oh my God, this is I was like, why am I doing this?
Everybody know about this?
Yeah, that's what it was for me. So then I get onto YouTube, and what had been happening was my YouTube like profile is probably 9 years old because I think I made an account to watch a video that was, an 18, like someone's restricted video or something, right? So I was like, okay. So what I had been doing was a lot of my online courses, just private links from YouTube, and a lot of like training videos that I would send to people, I would just film it and it'd be too long to text. So I just put it in YouTube as a private link. So I had quite a lot of videos that were not publicly available.
Yeah.
And a few little ones that I just put in there. And I'd never gone back to check on those. Like it was irrelevant to me how many views they got. Like I just, and I would get notifications that people had commented on it. And I was like, good for you. Like that's like whatever.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Congratulations. Thanks for commenting. So it turns out I had over 1,000 subscribers without ever really putting any work into it because people have been there, right? But it's like, over a long time.
Yeah.
But then I think, and YouTube's interesting as well because it's the same as when you look at someone else's Instagram or someone else's Netflix, right? Like whatever, it's a really different experience because it's showing their
cultivated
thing, right?
Yeah.
So my YouTube currently is just YouTube studio setups. That's all it shows.
That's all it is. Right? It's just RGB lighting.
Yeah, exactly. But prior to that, prior to start of last year, it was tech reviews. Like it was just stuff that I would want to know. And, like my garage door broke recently. And so I just Googled the model number and there's the video on how to fix it, right? So that's the kind of stuff. That's all that my YouTube was, right? So I decided I'm going to look up some dog training things because no dog training stuff comes up in my YouTube. None, because I don't watch dog training content, right? Like I make it, I don't really watch it. And the stuff that I watch is not on YouTube. It's like, I'm buying it from the very top end people. So I go looking, thinking that my video that's this really technical explanation of how to teach a very technical thing and with a lot of precision and with a lot of thought and a lot of understanding and a lot of nuance.
Oh, Pat.
It's got like 500 views, right? And it's got this stupid title that literally was probably just the like the file name that I called it, right? No work, no description, nothing. And it's got like 500 views. So I'm like, okay, there's 500 people that are interested in that. But then I look up other
how to tickle your puppy.
Yeah, like no, not even that, but like other dog training advice things, and there's like 5.4 million views, and I'm like, oh no, there's not 500 people that are interested in this. There's 5.4 million people that are interested in this. So I watched the video, and I was like, oh no, that's bad advice. Like I was thinking that's not how you should do that. And there's a lot of it's highly stylized, and it's not a lot of it's not true. And one of the things that really pisses me off in the dog space is like I can read a dog, right? Like I know what's going on. And a lot of the times when you see people like, watch me train this dog how to do this, I can read that the dog is confused by the progressions in the behavior. So you can see like that dog knows that. And he's confused by the fact that you're trying to reteach it to him, right? Now there's not that many people that can see that, but I can see that. And I was like, this is fake. This is you leading people down the garden path here. So not only is this like not very well presented factually, you're giving people false expectations about what would actually happen.
It can be done faster than what it can be done.
Yeah. And then
which is one of the interesting things about your original course that you did with Val.
Yeah.
So Val's, it was like, to be honest, it's probably the most comprehensive. I've done it. It's most comprehensive and best how to train a puppy tutorial. And it was like the greatest thing ever. And it just didn't hit the market.
No one wanted it.
I remember what you talking about. I was like, dude, it's fucking genius.
Yeah. So, I mean, I shouldn't say no one wanted it. We sold, a couple thousand of them, right? Yeah. But in the reality of the market, no one wanted it. I made it free just recently because, but that's the thing. It's about that perception of value. Like people, I couldn't convey to people how good this is. And to the average dog person, for the average pet owner, they can't tell the difference. Yeah. And then what was annoying me, one of the reasons I made it free was that when I looked at the analytics of who was buying it, all the email addresses have like @dogtrainingbusiness.com. And I was like, it's not for you. You're interested in that because you're interested in me as a trainer. And mostly what I do now is train other dog trainers.
Yeah. They're almost doing it as like a thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, no, it's not for you. It's for your clients. Yeah. Like, and so, but it was filmed over 12 months. Like it's really how to train a dog. And there's no, suddenly the dog's a year old. It's you watch her grow up. And at this age, this is what you should be teaching. And at this age, this is what you should be teaching. Yeah. So we just made it free. We put it on YouTube and we're like, here you have it. But, so that was the key catalyst for me was that I just wanted somewhere where my content could be actually found and used. And then when I looked into it, I've always had it in my head that because of the podcast as well is that people are probably digesting my stuff in their car. Like I was like, you don't need to see it. I'm explaining it to you. Like if it's just me standing in front of a shitty whiteboard and the sound is okay, like that's good enough, but it's not good enough. Right. And so I've learned that now.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I have high quality knowledge that I want to pass on. I have to develop the skill of creating high quality content so that people can look at it and go, yeah, that's worth digesting.
Yeah. Well, it's funny on the perception because like my editing on my videos is quite good. Now I don't do it. Like I have a guy that does that.
Yeah.
I have a full-time video editor who works. I run 2 companies. I run 7th Level, which is in the States, which is like a B2B sales training.
Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that's business to business.
Yeah.
I hear that on your podcast.
It's bum to bum. It's bum to bum training. It's very niche. Yeah. So we do more like I've got a meeting tomorrow with like a big agency in the States, and I've got a meeting with Brad Lee tomorrow, who runs a program called LightSpeed VT, which runs like all the websites for like Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone and all those guys to take over their sales and then provide training for a lot of their affiliates. So like we do all that kind of stuff through 7th Level, which is a US based company, which makes it much easier. And then all the Australian stuff is run through Sales Sniper. Well, still US stuff. Anyway, it's just different. So yeah, I lost myself in my own narrative there, but yeah, I'm sure it was very informative, but
you were going somewhere with it.
Yeah.
Business to business.
Yeah. So, I don't know, whatever. I'm tired. I've had a long day.
It has been a long day.
I got to get up at 5. I got to get up at 4:30 tomorrow. I have a 5 a.m. meeting.
Yeah.
That's one of the hard things about working with people in the States.
Yeah.
You know,
time zones. It changes.
Just, like tomorrow, I've got 14 meetings.
Yeah.
Every meeting's an hour.
Yeah. It's a big day.
Yeah. So it's a big day. Actually, my operations manager called me today and he was like, we need to talk about your diary. He was like, you're going to kill yourself. I was like, nah, bro, I'm a killer. Don't worry about it.
Never stop.
Never stop. Yeah, you can stop when you're dead.
No retreat, no surrender.
Exactly. Burn the boats.
Yeah.
But YouTube is a fascinating medium, and I think like the perception. That's right. My video editor is really good, and I was really, really like stoked when I got him. I was like, okay, now we can take it to the next level, because now I can start doing things like, again, because I know those first 10 seconds are so important. So I started doing like Will Edridge sequences, which is all the quick cut sequences. So now at the beginning of every video that I do, I film a quick cut, and then that guy puts it in there, and it's all designed just to get people to be like, oh, what's this? This is different, because anyone else you go to in my space, it's a talking head video.
Yep.
And that's it. And so I got videographers in to do walk and talks, like when you did like that stuff. So stuff that me and Pat went out, and I was like, hey, can you be my videographer for the day? And I was shooting these sort of advertisements for the 7th Level business. And the marketing company had split tested against the actual founder of the company, and they did a talking head. And I was like, I don't like this. I'm going to do it my way. Did the walk and talk, and the ads like 10x performance.
Yeah.
Just because of an interesting visual background. And people just don't realize, like, it's the visual interest is so important in keeping engagement.
Yeah.
And so like little cuts in and out, going to black and white every now and then, going to color, like all they do is just go, oh, and they stop people from being bored, even if the content's good. And if the audio quality is crap, they just will not watch.
Yeah.
You can upload in 480p and people will watch it. They won't be super impressed. But if you upload in shitty audio, man, they're gone.
Yeah. I think a big part of the success of the podcast that I do is the work that Glenn puts into the audio. And when we started it, I was like, good enough, mate. Like, this is fine. We'll just record it on our phones. If you want to do a podcast, like, that's fine. And he was like, no. Yeah. And he put so much work into it, and it is like pristine.
Yeah, like when I came and did your podcast, it was one of the first in-person podcasts I'd ever done, because our podcast is always done over Zoom, because I've been in Perth. Now we just got the office fit out, and I just had the podcast room sound treated.
Nice.
And you have to come in there. It's dead.
Yeah.
Like there's no echo, which is great. And so then we'll have an in-person podcast, which I think makes a huge difference. I think Joe Rogan described it as like when you do a podcast on Zoom, it's like biting into a chocolate egg that's hollow.
Yeah.
There's just something missing to it, which I can see having done one of these kind of things now. But when I came into your studio, I was like, oh, I gotta, like, cause we had like $100 mics from Amazon, USB mics. And I was like, all right. And I think like literally the next day I went out and bought a Rodecaster. Yeah. I went out and bought a better camera. I went out and bought like, not these ones, but like the bigger versions.
Yeah. The ones we have at the studio.
Yeah. The ones you have at the studio, but the exact same shit. And I was like, yep, let's go.
And we've been blessed that we did spend quite a lot of money to get started, but our Patreon, we've never taken a cent out of that other than bought equipment for it. Like everything is just, we put it straight back in. And we're very lucky that so many people contribute to that Patreon. There's a lot of money that comes in through it, but it all just goes back into it. And we tell everyone, we're like, we show them like, hey, we bought this. And like, I've got a Canon R5 with a, $3,500 lens on it. And we showed everyone like, hey, this is what we got. And it's to make content for you. Right? Like those guys, they pay for this camera that's filming us.
Same reason I bought the Mercedes. I was like, thanks guys. $200,000 car. I was like, you guys did that. Well
done. Yeah. Your guys, not my guys.
Yeah.
Let's
you guys
be clear.
did that. Well done. Let's get me a Lambo. You guys can do it.
I've asked for a Lambo at the Patreon a few times.
It's funny on my YouTube video the other day, because it was the vlog, which we can talk about vlogs because they're a whole separate beast.
Yeah.
But I did your studio tour and how jealous I was. And someone commented, oh yeah, well I bought that because I'm in Pat's Patreon.
Perfect.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, well played.
My brother's into cars. He's got like 3 Lamborghinis. And after I made all these jokes about you could buy me a Lamborghini, I was so tempted to get like a video to film of me turning up like, to that anonymous Patreon supporter, you're the best. I love you so much. Would have been cool.
When you set up your OnlyFans, you'll get one. I've been approached to, I honestly, like I had a guy who was like, hey, you should do OnlyFans, but like, just do it for sales.
Yeah.
And I was like,
it's the same as Patreon. It's just a platform, right? Because you can, it's just a way for people
it's
to
got a stigma.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
This is a great OnlyFans set up. This is a casting couch and a half.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the lighting.
Yeah, we can change these colors. we can get to any mood you like. No, she doesn't work up here.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think, sort of back to the content, something that's been really interesting to me is having to learn all of that. Like I've enjoyed learning it, and I've got a long way to go, and I can't afford to employ an editor, nor do I want to. I'm enjoying sort of putting it together, even though it costs me a big chunk of the time that I kind of don't have. I'm up here. Yeah. I'm up here till midnight clicking away, and then I'm up at 5 o'clock. But I think that there's this space for nuance within, I think both of us hit that within our industry, in that I think there's a real stigma, and it's not unfounded. It's amongst ex-special forces dudes that they don't leave a lot of place for nuance in a lot of their life, right? And there's a lot of...
I have no idea what you're talking about, Pat.
There's a lot of my way or the highway, and a lot of confrontation where it doesn't need to be. And I think one of the reasons we get along so well, and why our content, though it's on completely separate things, is along, like the topics is completely different. But the way that we present it is along similar lines. Like I watched your video today on the review of the $1,000 book, right? And I was I had it in my mind that it was just going to be you shit-mouthing this book and making a joke about how terrible it is for $1,000. But then there was like, oh, there's actually some okay content in here, right? Yeah. Like there's room for nuance. And that's one of the big things I have missed about not being able to teach live over the last 12 months is like the storytelling aspect, and also sort of shocking people when you say, like, this is how I do it. And then when someone asks a question like, why don't you do it this way? When you go, well, here's the 15 reasons why. The reason I do it this way is not arbitrary, right? Yeah. Like, this is not just because that's the way some guy taught me and now I pass it on, right? I'm not a 6-week expert. Like that's the classic army. Like you did a 6-week course, and the guy who instructed you on that course he did a 6-week course, and that guy did a 6-week course. Like the depth of what you know is not there. It's good enough, and that's very typical of army. Like it's still very good. I'm not shit-mouthing army stuff, but
yeah, I mean you can shit-mouth army stuff all you want. We've been out for long enough, but I think it's a symptom of. Like there's a lot of money in teaching people how to do things. And so like I know sales guys who have done sales coaching with me and were terrible and are now sales coaches. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, okay, like you shouldn't be that because you never actually were successful doing what you're supposed to be teaching. Mm-hmm. And so like for me, I don't consider myself a sales coach, but almost all I do is coaching. But I predominantly coach my internal team to replicate what I was able to do. Mm-hmm. And I was able to earn around $100,000 a month of personal income just selling. And that wasn't selling my stuff. That was selling other people's stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, well, if I can do that and I figured that out relatively quickly, then I can just teach people how to do it. And then I don't have to do it because it's a lot of work and it's very demanding. Mm-hmm. But if those guys don't need to make that much, if they can make 30 grand a month, you know what I mean? But they're actually producing 60, then I make 30, they make 30, everyone's happy, And so that's sort of the business model that I went for. And it's only until I was still earning 80, I was still making 60% of the revenue for the company until December when I pulled out of selling. And now I only sell our stuff.
Yeah. Right.
But I just spent a year training people and like putting all the time into them and then reviewing my calls, reviewing my stuff and explaining. And through the explanation is where I sort of was like, oh, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing and why, because I had to do so much coaching to get the guys up to scratch. Mm-hmm. And I think it's probably in a similar way to what you're just saying. Like I can articulate why I said something in a particular way. Yeah. And it's like, I said this, like if I want to say a sentence, like, why is that important to you now, though? I can say it neutrally, or I can go, why is that important to you now, though? Or I can go, why is that important to you now, though? And so like the subtle nuance would dictate how you answer the question because of a social cue, whether the pause before or after. And so I can dictate how you answer by how I ask, and then I can bring you down a pathway much easier and quicker. Mm-hmm. And I can do that with every single question that I want to ask. And I can do a sale for 50 grand in 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And so like teaching people how to do that is a very lucrative thing, but there's a lot of people who are out there who are actually quite terrible at it.
Yeah.
But it's easy to bullshit people who don't understand. But I can listen to someone and go, oh, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
And I know the exact reaction that person's going to give you, and I know where they're going to try and go, and you're stuck.
Yeah.
You know, in the same way that you can do it with a dog.
Yeah, that's exactly it, mate. And so that's what I'm kind of obsessed with in my life at the moment, is that nuance. And I feel really drawn to it, and I feel really compelled to make public my feelings on that and teach what I can in it, because I feel like it's drastically missing in a lot of the world at the moment, is people just like, no, this is how it is. And you go, yeah, in that framework, that's how it is. But if we just change one thing within that framework, now it's a different thing. And so it's really important to understand how we got to this point. And in dog training, that's what I like. That's one thing I really enjoy doing. It's one of the things. Coaching's funny because I had never considered myself as being a coach, and I've always kind of said, you know, those who can't do teach.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And well, that's what's happening here. Like, I coach people who are much better than me, but they might just have like a little problem, and they can't, you know, they're caught up in it and they can't see, why is the dog doing this? And maybe it's just a external set of eyes. I don't know the dog, so I'm not making excuses for how he acts. You know, I'm not picking up the template of past behaviors and applying it to this behavior. I can take it for what it really is in this moment, that kind of stuff. But I really enjoy it. Like, I really, really enjoy it. And I try to apply it to so many things. And in personal relationships, in dog training and all that kind of stuff, is really understanding, how'd you get to here? Right? Like,
I think it's a powerful position to be in, because like I teach this in sales all the time. Like, I gave up about a year ago that I could convince anyone to do anything. But like, cause I can't make you do anything. I can't put a gun to your head and say, like, give me money. I mean, I can do that, but like, it's not going to work, and I don't have a gun here, you know? But so all I can do is present a series of things that get you to convince yourself. There's old Dale Carnegie line: a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. And when it comes to money, like, they can just charge back. Right, that's why everyone pays on credit card. If you want to pay on credit card, guys, it's pretty safe. You can just call your bank, get the money back. Right?
Yep.
There's a 7-day built-in cooling off period with everything you buy, even if they don't say there is. And so, like, you have to keep that person in there. And so I was like, well, if I just realize that I can't convince them, then I don't really need to do anything. I just need to stay calm and realize that, yeah, cool. If what I sell is good, then I just got to keep talking to the person until they figure out it's in their best interest.
Yeah.
You know. So how do I keep talking and not sound like an idiot? And I was like, so I created all these things like loops and frames and things that you say at the beginning. It's kind of like playing chess, really. And so my goal is to have the person not realize we're playing chess until I've pretty much already won.
Yeah.
So a lot of people look at it as a chess match. I look at it as the opposite. I'm like, how long can I hold this person off?
Yeah.
Thinking we're playing checkers.
Yeah.
But we're playing chess.
Yeah.
At that. I get to the end and it's like, I've put you kind of in a box.
Yeah.
Where you're like,
This is the only option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like,
They put themselves in a box.
they put themselves in a box, and every single door is open.
Yeah.
But there's only one they're going to walk through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how, like, I have like a 90% close rate. Like, my close rate is extraordinarily high. And it's because, like, I've just put together enough puzzles now
Yep.
to where I can go, like, you can probably fix nearly every dog, you know? Like,
But yeah, within
nearly,
reason. Yeah,
within
yeah.
reason. Just like I can make nearly every sale within reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If there's a dog that's like totally fucked, or if someone like, I'm not Tony Robbins, and I'm like, I can't intervene with someone's life and fix some sort of deep seated issue within them in an hour. It's not going to happen, nor do I want to.
Yeah.
Like, that's not really my place. But it's funny, like, when you go into the nuance, because I remember when I was a personal trainer, like, I don't know if the lack of nuance is a symptom of, like, it's lazy and easy to be controversial, so nuance is boring, or if people just don't react well to nuance. Because I remember, like, when I was a PT, the guy named Charles Pollock, when he died a few years ago, he's a phenomenal coach, but he used to talk in hyperbole because the people he were talking to were fucking idiots.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's like, you know, PTs. I was a PT. Shout out to all the PTs out there. You're great. But 90% of PTs are just people who couldn't be bothered going to university.
Okay.
Right? They want to make $100,000 a year at the beach.
Okay.
That's the goal, right? So, like, you're dealing with people who aren't particularly interested in a lot of things, but the ones who, like, they know they can make money and they need to learn things, right? And so, like, he used to say, yeah, don't eat carbs. Like, just flat out, you can't eat carbs.
Yeah.
Now, what he meant is, like, minimize the amount of bad carbohydrate that you have. But then you'd get these mindless monkeys that just, like, literally destroyed themselves because they took it literally.
Yeah.
You know, so he spoke in hyperbole to get the point across, because like 90% of people would then assimilate that as, oh, cool, I'll reduce to like a moderate amount, then there's all these morons who would just kind of take it literally. So
Yeah.
like whenever I heard that, like I was like, oh, that's a bad teaching, but he's a great coach. And I was like, it took me years to put together, and I was like, oh, he's doing that on purpose. Like, and it's to get a point across, because he knows like it's hard to sink in. So if he says something outrageous enough times, then people follow it to a degree in which is reasonable. You know, so like
every example that you've given is 100% applicable to my industry as well. Like you see people just like, no, this is how you do it because the big boss man says so. And you can put into, you know, the big boss man, you can, in every sort of space in dog training, there's a head guy, right? Like, or girl, and people take what they saw them do as like, that's the gospel because that's what they did. And they go, yeah, but there's a lot of factors that led to that. And that's what they did in that moment with the sun coming from that angle, you know, like, and all these little nuanced things. And then you see people wrecking themselves by not eating any carbs and crushing dogs by doing the wrong thing, or letting dogs go completely wild by not imposing any discipline. Like, you know, I put a video up recently that was in our Patreon of, and I wanted to build power in my dog, so I let him steal stuff from me. So like I was doing something on a tree and I had the Frisbee in my, like hanging out the back of my pants, and he ran over and grabbed the Frisbee and stole it. Right. Yeah. And it's like, that's not by accident. Like he didn't steal that Frisbee. I set up that Frisbee to be in a place where he could see it and steal it, to empower him, because I wanted him to feel strong in that session. That's the emotional state I wanted him to be in. Now, if you saw that and then you hear, okay, Pat lets the dog steal the Frisbee in order to make the dog feel a certain way, and then just before you go onto the trial field, you let the dog do that to make him feel a certain way, and you go, well, no, like now he's not going to do anything you say on the trial field. Because that's the wrong mindset. I want a total mindset of compliance when we're in the trial field, but when we're learning a new skill, I want him to feel free and powerful, right? So like it's nuance. There's a right and a wrong way, and I think as coaches, it's our job to explain that to people rather than just saying, do it like this because it's too hard for me to explain it and I don't believe you have the capacity to understand it. There's enough people doing that. There's enough of those people.
There are, for sure.
For me, it's like, no, I'm the guy that's going to break it down to you to the most difficult, boring degree.
And relatively for free. Like I remember when my marketing guy came on, I told him two things. And I was like, if you know who I am, you have to be able to get better at sales for free. I was like, that's the goal. I was like, I have a free Facebook group. We live stream in there 6 days a week for an hour with role plays. The people on the role play pay to be there. A very small amount, $50 a week, which for sales training is
What's that called? What's that called?
That
group?
The closing code. You guys can sign up.
Will there be a link in the description?
You laugh, but I sign up 60 people a month. There's a link in the description. Yeah, so we do that, but you can just watch it for free. So you can just be a part watching coaching sessions for free.
Yeah.
And then like we do a lot of stuff, and then I have the YouTube channel, I have the podcast. The podcast is not Pitch Fest. Like we don't really do any pitching. It's called invisible selling, right? Which is I do it on purpose. You probably do it by accident. You know what I mean? It's more like I give away so much that it's like the law of reciprocity. It has to come back. But I was like, we have to do things that are good. Like I don't want to do teasers. It's like I want to explain something, explain it in depth, give it to people, and they can utilize it. And then if they want like way more than that, then they can pay. You know, we have different levels of paying. But it's a difficult space to be in because like there's that dichotomy of like there has to be an element of like clickbait.
Yeah.
And then you've got to give detail. And it's like, how do you, which is why the podcast is the perfect bridge, because it's like, people can come in from YouTube or, you know, so you can be a bit more theatrical on YouTube, give the content, make it sort of infotainment. And then from there, like take the concepts that you break down on YouTube and potentially go into far more exhausting detail in the podcast. So if you're in the ecosystem, like you'll get all the information that you require for free. And like, that's one thing that's great about YouTube as well, is eventually you can monetize that.
Yeah.
You know, which is not easy.
Yeah.
Like it's we're going back and forth sharing screenshots. Like you did 4,000 hours. You're like, it's a shame that you can't do the privately viewed hours. It's all publicly viewed hours.
Yeah. Oh, if I had my privately viewed hours, because I have so many online courses and like, just yesterday I put a 45-minute video into our Patreon. Like I'd be over it in an instant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's life. That's life.
Big old YouTube dick on the table.
But yeah, it's fun to learn the new system and like relating to what you're saying then, especially on our podcast, one of the things that I have never once, and I'm proud of having never done this, I've never once stopped myself and thought, no, I'm not giving that away. There's not a single thing that I've I've got an online course, $500. It's a seminar. Oh, you can find it on my website, operatecanine.com.au. Hit the online courses tab. There'll probably be a link in the description.
There'll be an affiliate link.
But so I've got that. But that's everything that's on there. There's nothing new, right? Like if you listen to all 180 episodes of the podcast, you'll hear it all.
You'd piece it together.
But what it isn't is curated. Like it's not step by step, do this, then this, then this, which is on the course, right? But I've never once been explaining something and gone, oh, nah, like I'm not giving that away. I've never done that. And I just don't, especially in dog training, that's one of the reasons, like to go back to what I was talking about there. Like I want people to do well with their dogs.
Yeah, exactly, right.
I can't imagine anything worse than someone who has an interest in wanting to train their dog, has a dog that wants training and therefore will probably be a problem for their life because the dog desperately needs training. And like the dogs that enjoy training without it are a big problem, right? Mm. So I can't fathom a person who's in that position and is like, oh, well, I guess I'm not going to train this dog because I don't have any money. Right? I'm like, no, I will give you all the information to train that dog. Like I will give it to you. Here it is. It's all there.
Yeah.
You need to be able to do that. Right. And eventually you'll be after some finer detail shit when you have some money later and you can buy that from me. You'll have a specific question when you have money later and you can buy that. But until then, I'm giving you everything for free.
Yeah. But like, that's the thing. Like I'm in the exact same mentality and like, we're the ones.
Yeah.
Like
you're killing it.
We're the only ones who do that.
Yeah.
And like, I was so specific when I talked to him. I was like, literally, man. The second thing I said is that I'm going to make Grant Cardone sell me his jet. That was the second thing I said. And he goes, so you want a jet? I go, I don't think you heard what I said.
I want that jet.
I want that jet. And I want him to have to sell it to me. And he just was like, okay. And I was like, it's not a joke, Charlie.
Yeah.
Shout out to Charlie. I'll probably make this into a podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, Charlie Valor runs Valor Media. It's a podcasting agency. They do a really good job.
Yeah,
so
right.
Anyone out there wants to do a podcast, Charlie's your man.
So they do yours?
Yeah, so they edit it and upload it and do all the stuff and make sure it's all good to go and do all the tracking and help us out. They also run the YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. They do a fair bit of our copywriting as well. They do our emails. So like everything's kind of linked up.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of one big mesh. But yeah, it's it's an interesting world. But it is funny though, like, cause I've watched your progression over the years. I actually feel like I'm a couple years behind you in terms of like the authority play that you've been able to grab. Cause I was still kind of training people when you were starting in terms of personal training.
Yeah, maybe. Certainly like they're different businesses and money wise, like that's just not the same.
One in every 8 people employed on the planet is a salesperson.
Yeah, right.
So in terms of like scalability of a business.
Is that for real? 1 in every 8?
Yeah, 1 in every 8 positions is a sales position.
Right. So you're talking like retail or like.
Yeah. It's just such an enormous sector though.
Yeah.
And like, because the returns are instant and very easily, like, I guess there's an easy thing to go, I spend money on this and I make more money here. Mm-hmm. Like it's really easy. So it's a very simple industry. It's just easy.
Yeah.
Like selling well is not easy, but it's not a difficult industry to be in because there's so many people.
Yeah.
And so like the pockets of opportunity are enormous and you can just keep growing and growing and growing and growing. And there's no shortage of people to sell, and there's no shortage of things to sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're good at doing that, you literally never have to worry about anything again, because if you have a skill set that can make somebody else money, the only real problem is that people just see you as a dollar sign. And so like you get treated as such.
Yeah, yeah.
And so people like, I get people, I get 5 scams a day trying to get me to sell their shit.
Yeah, right.
I run a fucking crypto Forex, macrame course, and it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? I had some guy the other day, he told me he runs it's an investment coaching business. And I was like, what do they invest in? They're like motorhomes. I was like, you what? They go, yeah, we teach people how to flip motorhomes.
I don't even know what to say about that.
That's exactly what I said. I had a guy come to me who was a Ponzi scheme, and he was like saying everything but it's a Ponzi scheme. And I go, like, I'm not a dumb guy. He's like, oh, no, you're really great at what you do. I was like, you run a Ponzi scheme. He's like, no. I was like, hey, dude, like I'm not for this, but if we go any further, like I'm just going to report you to the FCC.
Yeah.
Because they're in the States. And he was like that. See you later. So like, that's the real hard thing is there are so many scams out there. And so it's tough. Like I can see from a consumer point of view, and it's probably the very same in the dog industry. Like there are so many charlatans.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not going to name any particular. And I think like the big names, like the Grant Cardones and the Jordan Belforts and all those dudes, like they're all good at what they do. Grant Cardone's a genius at making money. Jordan Belfort was a genius at stealing money, but now he's a good sales coach. But there are so many like little charlatans out there that just charge you $20,000 to teach you how to have a normal conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's why I was so concerned. And I was like, well, if we're going to do this, like we'll do everything. And if you can be bothered sitting down and consuming all the content and collating it together, then mate, you'll have it all and go for it. Like if that's your thing.
It's good, man. And you get to go to bed happy. Like,
yeah.
Maybe we should look at finishing somewhere on this, but one of the things that has really made me happy over the last few years, especially, is that I have decided to never compromise on any of my ethics, no matter what. Like if anything doesn't fit, or I just get a bad feeling, or what I never ever want to do. This is how I live my life now, and I'll never be in a position to feel not like this again. And before I sort of explain what I'm talking about too much, I will preface that, in the army I was lied a lot. Like I couldn't tell people what you do, and I worked within the especially can't tell people what you do area within the army. And there's always that like, what did I tell this guy? Like when you're lying to people, and especially when you're doing surveillance, like you are a liar all day. You are pretending to be someone you are not, right? And for me, some people love that shit. For me, it was the most stressful experience of my entire life. I hated it. And I think that's why I was good at it, right? Because I was like, I was constantly thinking about it, like, fuck. Anyway. But so I just decided I was never going to be in a position where I would ever be worried about anyone finding out anything about me, right? Where I'd be like, no, here it all is. Like, here's the whole lot. And I would, like, my phone never rings and I'm worried about who's on the end of it. And I never am, when I get a message from someone, I'm never worried about like them saying, this guy said this about you. I'm like, I don't care, right? Like my personal ethics are the most important thing to me above everything else. And I make a lot of what I probably would have in the moment from an observer would say that's a terrible business decision, right? Because like I've missed opportunities, I've lost opportunities, I've missed out on probably a lot of money in a lot of circumstances, but I've never once felt dirty about what I'm doing. And that for me is the most important thing. And then I feel like that can slow you down, but it can never stop you. And then everything snowballs out. Like from there, everything just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you never have to worry about someone pulling the plug out of the wall because you're fucking hands free at that point, right? Like there's nothing to pull out.
Yeah, exactly right. I think, I think that's. I mean, I've known you for a long time, and I think like you're definitely a straight shooter. I don't think anyone would ever accuse you of being anything else. And yeah, like I think it's the best way to be because, I just don't like, I couldn't imagine saying like we get present, like I say, with a lot of opportunities, like some of those scams, man, they're 50% commissions.
Yeah.
$10,000, $5,000.
And it's not your problem. You're just the sales guy. You're not the scammer, right? So you're legally clear of it.
I could mental gymnastics my way into being fully cool with that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably fine. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of sales guys do. And I'm like, you can't sell bad stuff, especially if you're good.
Yeah.
Like, because you can get people to do stuff. Like I've had people sell their cars to do programs.
Yeah.
you know, and like, but it's a good program and they've gotten great results from it. So we're very particular about it. And like, I remember one day we found out that we were selling something that was shit. And I was like, fuck at that. And we basically like called everybody and we just offered them shit, you know, pulled out and those kind of stuff. And I was like, oh man, as soon as we found that out, we were like, we can't let the opportunity and the dollar signs affect. And the dollar signs are big.
Yeah.
Like, you know, some of our clients pay us well over $100,000 a month. And so like, if I was to find out that that client wasn't legit, I would have to pull that immediately. And that's a significant hit to our revenue stream, which affects lives.
Yeah.
Because those guys are relying on that revenue, but they're also relying on me to do the due diligence to make sure it's good. And so they trust me and I go, no, this is a good product for you to sell. This is good. And so, yeah, like I think that from your perspective, it's just a long-term business strategy. You know, it's like being in the market, right? Like you can make money short-term in the marketplace by shorting stocks and, you know, swing trading and all that kind of stuff. Or you can just invest in blue chip and you can be in it, make your 9% double every 10 years and you're happy, you know, and it's a long-term play. And I think that play over the long term of just being like, we're only going to do things that feel right.
Yeah.
And we're going to do the due diligence. And then, yeah, like it doesn't matter who's calling on your phone and what's going to happen. You're never going to get that jolt of anxiety and nothing.
Never.
Like, and it doesn't happen. And, you know, I think like, you know, we've been living by that for a while as well. And it's just, man, business has been easy.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a thing, you know, I understand, both of us understand behavior really well, and you in people more than me and me in dogs. But there's a big carryover. It's, you know, when I often say to people, especially when I'm teaching them, like all the things that we know about behavioral science, a lot of those experiments were done on dogs, but no one gave a fuck about the dogs. Like we were doing this to learn how to control mammal brains, right?
Yeah.
Like the dogs were just the vessel to figure it out. And you know, Skinner's kind of the original behavioralist of this couple before him, but the couple before him weren't using dogs. Like there were babies that were like really fucked with, right? Like given aversions to things and all kinds of stuff just to prove how it worked, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, there's this responsibility that behoves you when you know how to manipulate people like that. Like, and I think that you see a lot of the really good scammers and that kind of stuff. They're as good at it at you, but their ethics are in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And so like for me you know, again, to relate it to dog training, like my dog will do whatever I tell him, right? Because he's convinced that he is the most powerful being on the planet and he can't be injured. So it behoves me not to tell him to do things where he could be,
Yeah.
right? Because he will do it. If I tell him jump off a cliff, he'll be like, fucking got it. Like,
Yeah.
So like when you understand how to manipulate beings like that, I feel like there is a big responsibility to be fucking careful how you do that.
Man, do you know how easy it is to start a cult?
Yeah.
Like,
Let's do it.
yeah. Hey guys, if you're feeling
If you're still
marginalized in
here.
any way, but like it's super easy because like for us, like in my realm, and probably in your realm too, because like we've had some funny conversations about some of the comments and all that kind of stuff that we get. But like people have like almost deified, like, you know, and it can only be a small group. It only needs to be 30. You know what I mean? And like
That's a good sized cult.
Yeah, it's a good sized cult. You know, you can have sex with a lot of random people's wives with the cult that size. You know?
Ultimately,
That's
all kill yourselves.
Yeah, exactly. That's the dream. And again, if you're feeling marginalized, no. And so like, but we've had to have the chat because like people will work for me for free.
Yeah.
Like, and they'll work themselves to death.
Yeah.
And so like one of our, I guess, predecessors, he shall not be named. That was what he did. Like he basically got people to pay him. And then from there, like, and pretty much every guy that's ever sales coached for me has sales coached with me. They end up working for me because they like my style.
Yeah.
They like it, the culture that I breed, all that kind of stuff. And that culture is really strong. And so like people come to me wanting to work for me and they're saying like, hey, listen, I'll quit my job and I'll work for you for free for 6 months if you'll teach me. And it's like, I don't want you to work for free. And like, it's really easy. Like I could have 30 people tomorrow and I could have a free workforce and I could throw human suffering at things and make a lot of money off them. And at the end of the day, they're going to go back to their families and they're going to be broke as fuck.
Yeah.
And yes, they would have learned a skill, but that skill is going to take a while for them to attribute. And I was like I have the conversation every month and I'm like, is everybody being paid? And how much are they being paid? And is this person being paid enough? Like, I tripled the wage of one of our guys. He's on a retainer, like he's an appointment setter, but like, you know, he's in a really bad situation. It's actually very interesting. He's a great guy. We're actually moving him state because his parents are both junkies. And he works for me for a retainer, and then he gets commissions on top. But what he sells is pretty small. It's kind of like a training role. But I was like, I'll pay you. But like, I can't pay you a lot because you don't make me much, but I'll pay you to train. It's been going for like 6 months, and he's a hard worker. So I was like talking to him today, and I was like, okay, tell me about your family life. How's everything going at home? How much money you're making? And it hadn't really gone up much. And I was like, fuck me. I was like, and I got 32 people. I can't be on top of everybody. And if they don't come to me, like, dude, I can't give you more money unless you ask me for it.
Yeah.
You know? And so I was like, shit, you need to be making more than that. He's like, oh yeah, it's okay. And I was like, no. You need to make at least double. I was like, congratulations. I'm tripling your wage. He was like, oh, okay. So he's like, oh shit. He starts crying and stuff like that. But like, this guy's a great hard worker. He's a phenomenal dude. Never sold a thing in his life beforehand. Was really scared to just have interactions with people because his mom's a meth head and his dad's a cokehead.
Yeah, right.
He lives in the middle of the U.S., like in some bumfuck town that no one cares about and everyone's on ice.
All right.
You know? And it's just like that guy would have worked for me for free for 3 years.
Yeah.
And like, it's a really strange phenomenon when you do put yourself out there and you do go on camera and all of a sudden people start listening to you. There is a significant responsibility to have a good ethic about you because it is so easy to build an empire on the back of people who just idolize you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, it sounds really up yourself, but you don't even need that many people. Like I say, if you have 10 people who think you're the best, they will do shit for you for free.
Yep.
Until the cows come home. I know so many guys who are in the similar position to me, or not like sort of, who just get free shit thrown at them constantly. And I was like, I will take nothing for free. Like, I will pay for everything. I won't even trade services.
Yeah.
I was like, I will pay for everything. If you want something from me, you can pay me. If I want something from you, I will pay you.
Yeah.
If I want you to train my dog, I will pay you. I don't want a mate rate. Just fucking do your thing because I want you to have the same level of value attached to what you're doing with me as to what you're doing with somebody else. Mm-hmm. You know? And so like, it's a really interesting phenomenon. And I'm sure that you've had it as well. Where you're like, hey, I'd love to learn off you for free, or, you know,
it's big in dogs, mate. We call it shadow programs, and people actually pay to just follow you around for a week. And it like,
just
they're learning stuff from you, but I mean, it doesn't work for what I do because like I don't work in a facility, right? So it really is only if you work in a facility, but there are people that run shadow programs and it's like, oh, you know, like come to my house and like, it's dirty. It feels gross. And you know, there are people that do it well. I'll admit that there certainly are people that do it well. It's not like it's a totally bad thing. But I hear people going like, oh, I'm going to go do a shadow program with this guy and I'm going to pay whatever. And then I ask them how it was and they're like, oh, yeah.
I just shadowed a dude.
Yeah, like I just followed him around. And it like, you know, I get that, say with decoying, right? So getting bitten by dogs, there's a lot of people. There aren't many people in Australia that can do that. I'm only like on the scale of like terrible to excellent, you know, maybe I'm good at it, right? But locally, I'm one of the best because there aren't many people that do it, but I'm not saying I'm especially good at it. A lot of people like come to me and say, hey, I want to learn to decoy. And I'm like, yeah, it's a 3-year thing because like I can't teach you that in a week. I don't have the dogs. Like I can't put you in front of enough dogs that you're going to be competent in a week. But there's heaps of people that will, right? And it's like, yeah, come and I'll teach you how to catch this one dog. So I got like one dog in this house right now that I can teach someone to be bitten by. And like for your audience, like the decoy is the trainer. When you're training an attack dog, it's kind of like sparring. You've got a coach who's on the outside of the ring and he's throwing out hot tips and trying to manipulate you, but the guy you're sparring with is the one that you're learning from, right? Yeah, and it's the same with training a dog. Like if you're training a dog to bite, the guy who's biting is the one that's training him. And you have people say like, can I come over and learn how to decoy? And I'm like, yeah, like you can come and get bit by my dog, but he's one dog and there's a lot of different kinds. Like it's literally, it took me 3 years of doing it sort of with as many dogs as I could and all over the world.
What's the nuance, right?
Before I was like, oh, okay, like I'm at a point where I'm definitely not going to set anyone's dog back, right? But then I work a French ring dog and French ring's a whole nother thing. There's a dog that I work in the States. I've worked him a few times. His name's King Kong, the tripod. He's only got 3 legs.
I thought he had a huge penis.
Well, he might. He's a really good dog. But
that was my name in high school.
Yeah,
King
huge
Kong the
penis.
tripod. Yeah.
no. But so I've never once caught him where I've been wanting to. The dog outsmarts me every fucking time, right? And so like who would I be to then people go, can I come and learn to decoy? I'm like, yeah, you can come and get bit by my dog and then go like, yep, you got it, bro.
Also,
and then
like, how do you condense all that knowledge into such a short time frame?
Right? So that's the thing.
It's
Like it
disingenuous.
takes, exactly. And there's no space for nuance. Like, yep, my dog who bites in this way, you can learn to catch him, right? Like, but that's all I can offer you.
Yeah.
I can't call you a decoy, and you certainly shouldn't call yourself one because you're going to get your legs broken or you're going to get your face bitten by another dog.
People are going to overestimate the amount of osmosis learning you can do.
Yeah.
You know, like just being around. I have guys, because we're doing the office in Sydney. And it's going to be a cool fucking office. Like, I'm not going to lie. I've gone all out.
Yeah.
Like I
well,
said,
next time
we'll do it in there.
it'll be there.
And we can be at the bar or the pool table or the arcade machine.
We'll have to wear wireless microphones.
Yeah, we could just be wherever. And the guy was like, hey, I'll pay to like work out of the office. And I was like, I mean, if you want to liquidate some of my rent, you can, but what are you hoping to achieve? He's like, oh, just be in the environment, get better at sales. And I was like, all you will learn is the inner workings of my company. I was like, if you want to run a company like mine, that might be a benefit to you. I was like, but other than that, man, like you're not going to osmosis anything because we're all doing our thing. Yeah. Like me and Ben are in the office. I barely speak to him. Yeah. Like one of my best friends. He's 2 feet away. Haven't spoken to him for 3 days. Yeah. We speak on Slack. Yeah. You know, and I had another guy message me like literally in the car on the way over here. And he's like, hey, how much to fly out to you? And like, have you mentored me for 2 weeks? And I was like, I mean, for one, I don't want to hang out with someone for 2 weeks. I was like, that's just not happening. Yeah. So no money. And I was like, two, you would get nothing out of it. Yeah.
That's just not how training works.
Yeah. I can't provide you with anything. We can't train 8 hours a day. First of all, I wouldn't even know how to charge for that because I'd have to put my entire company on hold for a week, which would cost you probably over $100,000 for the week, of which I would feel bad charging, you know, like I'd be like, because what are you going to get? Like I would overload your brain with so much information that you would not absorb 10% of it. Yeah. So just pay me for an hour a week and you'll get far more out of it. Then you can go away. We can work on one thing. You can practice it. We can come back, work on the next thing of which you can then go and practice. Yeah. Because I hate to break it to you guys, but you just have to go out and do stuff.
Yeah. Takes time
to get good at it.
You know,
young people, man, like we're not old or anything, but I got a couple of guys who are like early 20s. They're like, oh, how do I get over this? And I was like, you need to have another 5 years of life. Yeah. And then you will get over that because you just you haven't had enough conversations with people. Yeah. Like I know where the conversation's going and I can't teach you that because I've had years and years and years of conversations and I was the new guy because I moved 11 times. Yeah. Yeah. I was the new guy. So like, I know what that's like.
It's funny. I've had many amazing mentors and dog training. I'm very lucky that I've fallen into the right places at the right time, as well as worked hard and, you know, cultivated those relationships, but I've had a lot of luck.
Well, the worst thing that can happen when you get a mentor is that they just end up being your mentor.
Yeah, right.
That's the worst thing that can happen. Yeah. So like best thing that can happen is
that's deep.
It becomes a much more impactful relationship.
And I've
in both directions.
I've been lucky my whole life. I've had that. But so Bart Bellin is arguably the, you know, best dog trainer ever. That's a difficult thing to say because there's different aspects of it. But, you know, he speaks 5 languages, right? And so sometimes when he types stuff, like he'll comment on things, it's broken English, and sometimes he might mistranslate something or something, you know, seems like it doesn't make sense. So one day, and he's watched my dog grow up. He's been helping me with him, you know, all along and learning his system on that dog. And one day I put this Facebook post up about like how happy I was because the dog had really matured and was powerful. And like, I just, you know, we'd been through some, you know, ups and downs with him. And I was just saying how happy I was. And Bart wrote on there, time takes time. And I was like, is that like a Belgian saying that I don't understand? Like, and I kind of laughed it off as like, didn't translate, didn't make any sense. Fuck, man. Like that is, now I reflect on it a lot. And I think it's one of the most,
man's done some living.
Dude, like it is one of the most impactful things anybody's ever said to me. Is like some things just can't be rushed, right? Like time takes time. The dog was always going to grow into being this powerhouse that he is, but he had to grow into being that. Like you couldn't just be born it. That's time takes time.
Yeah. I think that's only something you can know in retrospect.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, and then apply forward, but you have to have gone through it and be like, oh, and then.
It's once you've peaked over the mountaintop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you don't know it's there until you know it's there. And then once you see it's there, you can climb the mountain. And once you get to the mountain, you can see what's next.
Yeah.
You know, and it really is one of those things. And I was lucky. I don't know if I was lucky, but I picked up my particular profession very quickly. Well, I didn't. I didn't realize I was in sales until I was in sales for 10 years. And then I was like, oh, I think I'm in sales.
Yeah.
Like that. Because
Selling PT.
I was selling PT for so long and I was selling the living bejesus out of it. But I was put in a position very similar to you where I just fucking had to.
Yeah.
Like I hated it. I had no intention of ever being in sales. Would never have. If you would have told me 10 years ago what I'm doing now, I'd be like, fuck off. Like there's no chance.
Yeah.
I would have been like, I have 10 gyms and I have this. And it's like, fuck you. I literally couldn't think of anything worse right now.
Yeah.
Jesus. But yeah, like, so I had a lot of interactions with people, a lot of conversations, and then people come to me and I was like, cause I came into the high ticket realm and then became known as probably one of the top 5 in the industry, hands down, no questions asked, in a year.
Yeah. Right.
And everyone's like, fuck, how did you do that? And I was like, well, I sold for 10 years, really inexpensive, very hard things to sell. Because when you're selling fitness, you're asking people to give you money, give you time, stop doing things that they really enjoy and be in physical pain. So I was like, if you can get people to do that consistently, and I was like, I had to because I was the guy who had to do it because nobody else could do it or would do it. So I was like, well, someone's got to make the money. So I did that. And then by the time I went into high ticket sales where you're selling expensive things, but there's a huge monetary output on the other side, you have a return of investment, it was easy. I made 12 grand my first week in high ticket selling. And I was like, I called my business partner. I was like, we do this now. I went from...
I was done selling gym memberships.
Oh, well, I mean, I had started a business just selling gym memberships, right? My business was called Fitness Sales Sniper. That's where it came from.
Yeah.
And then literally this guy was like, hey, I'll pay you $2,000 commission. I saw it on this Facebook post to sell business coaching sales. And I applied and I was like, yeah, I've done business coaching sales my whole life. I was basically born doing it. I'm the best there ever is, best there ever was. You know, I was just like, I'll just go in there. And he totally ignored me. And then I called him, I messaged him and I said, I'll pay for the leads.
Yeah.
I was broke. I was like, that was a promise I could not fulfill. I would have tried, I would have done it.
So what does that mean? You said it costs him whatever it does to put you on the phone with someone. And if you don't close them, you'll pay him back for what
it
they
would have been like
him.
$400
Ouch.
to get someone on the phone. Right.
Yeah. And that's through his advertising, getting them through the funnel.
Yeah. And because the program was 24,000. And so I was like, I'll do this. And he was like, well, no one's ever said that before. So he gave me the job and he gave me like 8 sales calls, closed 6.
Nice.
$2,000 a sale, 12 grand. And I called him James, a business partner. I was like, hey, we do this now. And then I just basically went down the rabbit hole, like super deep. And I was like, how do we get good at this?
Yeah.
And that was where it all came from. But like people like see that and they're like, oh, I can replicate that.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, it's not replicatable, not because I'm special. It's because of the circumstances in which I came into it.
Yeah.
So like I had like slogged 8 hours a day, calling $400 to $500 a day, calling leads, having thousands and thousands of interactions. And the way that I describe it is like, if you see a puzzle, like the first time you look at a puzzle, it's really confusing. It's just a mixed up jigsaw puzzle. But then eventually you realize there's a pattern. You start with the edges. Okay, if you want to start with the edge, you start with the corner. Then when you go to the corners, you go out from there, and then you start identifying the patterns. I need this piece, this piece, this piece. Look for straight edges, and then just put all the straight edges up, and then all of a sudden you're just seeing patterns and putting it together, and then you work your way in. But when somebody starts doing sales or someone starts, they're starting from the middle and they're doing patchwork here and there, and it makes no sense. And so by seeing enough puzzles, you just sort of figure out how they work.
Yep.
And then from there, you're like, oh, I've seen this before. And then you can just put it together. And it's the same with dogs, the same with anything. You see enough of it, and all of a sudden, you pattern recognition. And then what happens? Like, what's the first thing you do when you get a dog? You name it. What's the second thing you should do, potentially, is get it to call, get it to come when you call it. And it's the same with any skill set. Whenever you get a skill set, when you want to get good at it, you then name the skill set. Then you can identify, and then you can recall how to sort of bring it back. So like I have names for all of my things that I do in sales. Like I lay out the sales process, and it's the this and the this and the this and the this. And then it's like if someone gives me like a language pattern, I identify the language pattern, I name it. That's a hesitation. I know what that's going to produce in 10 minutes. And then I bring out a frame that I can use to stop that thought pattern in its tracks, change the thought pattern to be something different that I know how to handle better. And so it's just it's just name and recall. But you just have to see a lot of things and hear a lot of things in order to do that effectively. Same thing like with shooting. Like I was in snipers, you know, dudes want to get really good at like shooting with wind. It's like, man, you just got to shoot in a lot of wind to where you can see that and go, that's probably this strong.
Yeah.
I'm going to aim off here. And it's more of an art than it is a science.
Yeah.
Because it just feels right.
Yeah.
But that just takes a lot of shots, which is why on sniper course. Yeah. On sniper course, you just shoot a lot. And in snipers, like we shot 4 days a week. Why do you do that? Because when you go to shoot people in Afghanistan, like you need to have shot a lot of targets.
Yeah. I talk about that, you know, army stuff in regards to shooting. In the tag where I spent most of my career, like it's not.
You were there when it was black, wasn't it?
Back in the day. If I do B-roll, I'm going to put B-roll of me in the black suit, the whole lot, right? Like back when it was something. Yeah. Not that it's not something now, but back when there was no war on. There was no war on. It was the place.
The tag is Tactical Assault Group. It's the domestic counterterrorism.
Yeah, but it was the place. But it's not uncommon to shoot 10,000 rounds a week per person.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and as a civilian, that's like $1 a round, like for a 9mm round, like that's like 10
Dude, we shot
week.
338 Lapia match grade, $13 a round.
So, you know, I was doing a seminar in the States a while ago and a guy was like, hey, you want to go out the range, do some shooting? I was like, oh yeah, I guess. Like, and he was really into his shooting and I just like outshot the fuck out of him. Right. Like I haven't shot for years, but I was like, dude, I have done this so much. Like it's not fair. And not for funsies either. Like this was my job, and if I was bad at it, I would have been killed. And so
the consequences are dire.
Yeah. So like I'm fucking good at this, and it's not something I have any interest in.
Yeah. Comparatively, you can be not good at it in the unit. Yeah. But you're still better than almost everybody.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Like I wasn't a standout shooter, but in that group of people,
you look at like a Brett Wood. You watched him shoot back in the day. I remember like going through a house with him. Brett was one of our friends that died overseas.
Yeah.
And that man was like, it was like watching a movie.
Yeah. He's in the Matrix. He's in the Matrix. Like he just is like ones and zeros coming at him, fighting through.
Yeah. It's amazing to see people in that. I actually use that term all the time in the Matrix. There's a time when I've coached someone where I go, they might have signed up for 3 months and I go, you're done. I go, you're in the Matrix now. Welcome to the ones and zeros.
Yeah.
And because I role play with them, like, oh, you know.
You've seen behind it.
You know what I'm going to do, right?
Yeah,
they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, you're done.
Yeah, yeah.
You just need to go practice now. You don't need me anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. You still pay.
And on that, we'll finish.
Yeah.
We probably should. Otherwise, no one's going to watch this anyway.
They'll watch.
Hey.
But if you're feeling marginalized.
Yeah. Should be. Thanks for coming around, and let's see how this performs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care.
I mean, neither. It's gonna be interesting. And I guess we'll touch base in a few months about it and see where our YouTubing is at.
Yeah, where are you at? What are your stats right now?
I think I've got 1,850 subscribers or something like that.
I'll tell you, I'm a bit behind you.
And I'm like just under 2,000 hours of watch time. I think I was like 1,800 hours of watch time.
I've got about 100 hours of watch time.
Oh my God, you're the guy.
I'm the guy.
You're the guy.
The enormity of my success is hard to believe.
Like I say, in all honesty, I'm not really chasing big numbers, and what I do is so niche.
I've got 715 subscribers and about 3,500 hours of watch time.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, we're in this, and it's been a month or two.
Oh no, I've got like 82 videos up.
Yeah, right.
So I've been uploading because I upload the podcast as well.
Right. Okay.
So like, I guess for me, that's a strategy as well because I actually prefer people to watch the podcast on YouTube.
Right.
So we really try and get the podcast to be more YouTube. We still get way more downloads on the RSS feeds and stuff, but I can't monetize that.
Yeah.
So if I can push them if I can push a third of them to watch it, then I can actually get paid for that, which then liquidates
Yeah.
all the spend for the podcast.
Yeah. We're thinking with it, well, not thinking, we're planning with the podcast to start a YouTube channel and do clips. So we're going to start filming it and then just have like, if we say something good and put that as a clip, just to help people get the information. And like I say, like it's the metrics really for me is really that I feel like I have good information. I feel urged to pass that on. And
You will be
this is the way to
surprised
do it.
the moment you release the entire thing on YouTube, people will watch it.
Yeah.
Because like I get screenshots, they put it on their TV
Yeah.
and they watch it like a TV show every week.
Yeah. Well, I get that with the Patreon for sure. People will watch that, but it doesn't count. Anyway, what's your details and stuff?
I'm sure there'll be links in the description.
Links
Just
everywhere.
Salessniper.net.
Do all
I'm pretty
that.
sure I think it's changing soon, but whatever. But yeah, like I think we should, I like this. I think like for me, it's behind the scenes and fun stuff. Like, you know, I don't know. Eventually I want to be more than just a sales guy,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a sales guy at all.
Yeah. I mean, I've thought about dabbling in dogs, but not anything seriously.
Don't. It's hard.
I'm going to exclusively train female dogs. I think that's a good niche.
It's not.
Female pugs.
Female pup. Well,
Yeah.
there's probably
the
money
owners
in
are
that.
rich.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I learned something the other day because there's a Shar-Pei at the dog park.
Oh, yeah?
I know you have feelings in dog parks, but we were there. And I was like, stay away from that Shar-Pei because we can't read it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't read a dog anyway.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really help me, but
Yeah.
I felt like I felt cool,
Yeah.
you know?
You know, that video actually is the first thing I ever uploaded to YouTube, and it was just because I kept losing it in my phone. That was the reason I was like, where is this fucking video? And I'd like take me, same as the other story, take me forever to find it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll put that on YouTube so I can actually send that to people. I should see, I don't know how many views it's ever gotten.
Yeah. Just like one thing I will before we finish is, who is your YouTube inspiration? Peter McKinnon.
Yeah, Peter McKinnon. Of course.
Yeah.
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 Well, in that space, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like the setup and stuff and just the visuals of it. And that's what I've been enjoying learning.
Yeah. I love it. I storyboard all of I don't do my own editing, but I storyboard it all.
Mm-hmm.
The vlogs are a whole different thing. Like they're a monster of an effort.
Yeah.
I don't do the editing. If I did the editing, I couldn't do it
Yeah.
because I have to film probably 6 hours of content
Yeah.
and then storyboard the whole thing.
Oh, dude. So I made this thing. It's in our Patreon called Raising Working Puppies. And it only went for, I think, 36 minutes or something. Dude, it was one of the hardest things I've ever put together in my life. And it was just the story of a bunch of puppies that didn't work out. Right?
The congruency of videos is a nightmare.
Man, it was hard work. And interviews with people and then editing all of that and having the narrative. And I had it in my head that people were going to say something and I'd storyboarded that like in my mind of how this was going to go. And then they didn't say the shit that I thought they were going to say. So I was like, okay, fuck, this has taken a whole nother turn. And I was happy with it, man. It came out, people got a lot of good feedback but the work involved was, it was that literally, even discount the like actual time filming, just putting it together was probably a week of work.
You know, I was going to do a similar concept to what you did with that video that I was in.
Yeah, so that's the one.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Oh no, that was a different one. That was the one before. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
I was going to do the same concept.
Yeah.
And I like got halfway through the first video and I was like, no way.
Yeah,
This is too much because
Yeah.
I had to do interviews.
Dude, it's
and I was
hard
like,
work.
I logistically could not manage to get it done.
yeah, it's hard work. And so, but the Patreon ones, they just come out once a month, and so I've actually even currently got like 6 of them on the go, and so that when I get the piece, I go like, okay, that goes into there, and then. You know, when one sort of 80%, I'm like, okay, now I'm on the clock to finish that one because
Yeah.
that's going to be next month.
Isn't it funny? Like I stress out because I get this, I post at the same time, right? Because YouTube loves consistency.
Yeah.
And like, although it affects me in no way, I am like the most stressful deadline that I have is my YouTube channel.
Yeah. Well,
Even though, like,
fun.
It's fucking free.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's fun.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.